past few weeks have featured a heated debate to who is going to be the new president of the United States. It is going to be Franklin Pierce, the South's favorite, or the opposing mixed party with their candidates.
The Whigs, who had in the past nominated well-known former generals such as William Henry Harrison and Zachary Taylor, chose another war hero. They passed over Millard Fillmore for current president and nominated Winfield Scott. However, some Southerners don't trust Scott. Let's send it to Nick at a voting station in Washington.
Thank you, Swarnima. I am Nick Farion reporting to you from the White House, where we have just witnessed Franklin Pierce, a Northerner with the Southerner principles, win the election against Winfield Scott. It is extremely windy out here, but it didn't stop the people from coming out to vote. It wasn't a close election, as Pierce won by a lot of votes. This defeat would spell the end for Waiting Party, as their loss causes them to change their name to the Republican Party. Once again, reporting from Washington, D.C., this is Nick. Back to you, Swarnima, at the studio.
Thank you, Nick. In President Pierce's inaugural address, President Pierce was expressing his hope for the slavery issue to be put to rest. Let's send it to Angelica in Washington, D.C.
Thanks, Emily and Swarnima. We are currently in Washington, D.C., where it is very cold with light snow. On Friday, March 4, 1853, this is where our 14th President, Franklin Pierce, said his inaugural address. In his address, he said his beliefs about slavery. According to a Kansas newspaper, it states President Pierce expressed his address, his hope that slavery issue had been put to rest, and that no sectional excitement may again threaten the durability of our institutions. What happens next remains to be seen. That's your news coming from yours truly, Angelica Ali. Thank you, and now back to you, Emily and Swarnima.
Thank you, Angelica. Pro-slavery and anti-slavery groups rushed supporters to Kansas.
Senator Seward was one of the people who spoke out against it. Let's send it out to Allison in Kansas.
Thanks, Emily. Stephen Douglas was born in Vermont, studying law in New York before moving to Illinois, where he became a politician. Stephen Douglas had supported the idea of creating a railroad to the Pacific Ocean. Douglas wanted a railroad to run from Chicago. His first step to create this railroad was to get what was left of the Louisiana Purchase and try to turn it into territory and hopefully free states. People down south didn't support Stephen Douglas' idea to create the railroad. The Southerners rather wanted to have a railroad which ran from New Orleans across Texas and the New Mexico territory to southern California. Thanks, Christine D., for this piece of information. He really wanted the railroad to start with Chicago, so he asked Southerners senators to support his plan to make the railroad. They agreed to support it, but the catch with the new territory of west of Missouri must be open to slavery. During the 1850s, he continued to fight for popular sovereignty in Congress and Illinois, with the state election campaign of 1858 was highlighted by his famous debates with Abraham Lincoln.
Thanks, Allison. Ever since entering Congress, Stephen Douglas strongly suggested that the new line would run from Chicago. Not many Southerners in Congress agreed with this idea.
Southerners wanted a line running from New Orleans across Texas and New Mexico territory to Southern California. Let's send it out to AJ on the field.
Thank you, Emily. I am here in the new territory of Kansas, and the activities here are tremendously interesting. The two new territories that have been created are Kansas and Nebraska. In January 1854, Senator Stephen Douglas introduced the two territories. He happened to also be the one who argued for popular sovereignty, which would mean the people of the territories would decide if slavery is legal or illegal. The act also was a plan to divide the remainder of Louisiana Purchase into two new territories of Kansas and Nebraska. This plan by Douglas contradicts Senator Henry Clay's proposed Missouri Compromise, which was designed planned to help the nation maintain peace under the terms of the Missouri Compromise, which was a federal statute in the U.S. that regulated slavery. It would have been outlawed in both territories since it would have been outlawed. Many abolitionists were outraged by the implication. After a long time of debates and the arguments, the Kansas-Nebraska Act was signed into law on May 30th, 1854. Now back to Emily and Misty.
Thank you, AJ. In January 1854, Stephen Douglas introduced the Kansas-Nebraska Act. This plan would divide the remainder of the Louisiana Purchase into two new territories, Kansas and Nebraska.
Popular sovereignty would decide on slavery. However, the Missouri Compromise restriction on slavery north of the 3630 line, reporting from Kansas as owned Caroline.
Thank you, Sir Nima. This is Allison reporting from Washington, D.C. The division in Kansas on slavery is a huge part of U.S. history. To begin with, Senator Seward spoke strongly against slavery in Kansas, so he gave the idea of fighting for freedom of Kansas. The members of the legislature passed strict laws that made it a crime to question slaveholders' rights and said that those who helped fugitive slaves could be put to death. Anti-slavery activists formed their own legislature in Topeka, Kansas. President Pierce, however, only recognized the pro-slavery legislature. Some results of the division in Kansas is how violence erupted, opposing government reform, and Kansas people were angry. In addition, they started the Civil War of Kansas. Sending it back to Emily from Washington studio.
Thanks, Caroline. Earlier this year, Kansas has formed two opposing governments that had different opinions on the idea of slavery.
The citizens of Kansas are furious about this mishap. Let's send it to Orange in Kansas.
Thank you, Emily and Sonia. This is Anj reporting from Kansas. We just witnessed a disaster there. Our two opposing governments and the population is not happy. Abolitionists freed a group of abolitionists from prison. During this, they killed many people. This started the Civil War, which led to $400,000 of damage. Because of the expansion of slavery led to more violence, says the Kansas Historical Society. People left Kansas after this disaster, says the PBS research group. This is Anj. Back to Emily at the studio.
Thank you, Anj. Just recently, 800 men rode to the city of Lawrence to arrest anti-slavery leaders.
The anger that broke out caused buildings to loot. Many of the presses were destroyed. Let's send it to Javid out under.
Thank you, Sharnima. Over here, it is very crazy because there has been an attack. 800 men led by William Clark Quantrill went to the city of Lawrence, Kansas, and tried to kill anti-slavery leaders and African Americans. It was a very devastating event. There were between 160 casualties. Sheriffs are on the scene. Let's send it back to Emily and...
Thank you, David. Abolitionist John Brown from New England and his sons moved to Kansas in 1855.
The attack of Lawrence made him determined to fight fire with fire and to strike terror in the hearts of pro-slavery people. Let's send it out to Lamar in Washington.
Thank you. On May 24th, John Brown and a group of anti-slavery volunteers killed 5 pro-slavery men. The men were unarmed. The men were not slave owners, but associated with the pro-slavery Law and Order Party. This attack occurred 3 days after the ruffians from Missouri burned. Now back to you.
Thank you, Lamar. A violent fight between Senator Sumner and Representative Brooks just occurred. The gentlemen seemed to be arguing about the heated debate of slavery.
Brooks injured Sumner really badly, that Sumner fell to the ground unconscious. Let's send it to Ricardo on
Thank you, Emily. Yesterday, according to Washington Daily newspaper, Princeton Brooks, now known as Billy Brooks, attacked Massachusetts Senator Charles Sumner. While they were both in Congress, Brooks used a walking cane to attack Sumner until he was unconscious. According to Kansas newspaper, the beating was caused by an insult Sumner made to pro-slave people in Kansas. Sumner also personally insulted pro-slavery Senator Andrew Pickens. But Butler of South Carolina, a relative of Brooks. He was punished for the attack was only a $200 fine. Reporting from Washington, D.C., this is Ricardo Figueroa, and now back to you, Emily, in the studio.
Thank you, Ricardo. Wow, that was what a busy news day we had.
Yes, it was Swarnimo. Please join us tomorrow for another news-filled broadcast. For Swarnimo, I am Emily. Good day, everyone.